Hello everyone. In this presentation, we'll go through the equity theory of motivation. Out of the many theories of motivation, this is an interesting one which looks into the comparisons which people make with one another in an organization. According to Adams' equity theory, individuals compare the ratio of their job inputs and outcomes with those of others and then respond so as to eliminate any inequity. You must have seen situations or heard of such situations where people tend to compare what they get from the organization and what their colleagues get from the organization. Wherever they are getting less, they tend to feel demotivated or dissatisfied. So let's first of all understand what is this input and output. Now, inputs are anything which the employee gives to the organization. This can be anything tangible or intangible, measurable or not measurable. For example, his time, his effort, ability, loyalty, tolerance, flexibility, integrity, commitment, or any other sacrifice you can think of. While whatever the organization gives back to the employee is considered as the output. So it may be either bonus or his salary, perks, benefits, security, recognition, praise, responsibility, or anything else which he receives from the organization. Now what happens is that the employee tends to compare that how much is he giving to the organization and what is he getting in return, and what is the other person giving to organization and what is he getting in return. So they do not compare just the outcomes or the outputs. For example, they just do not compare their salaries. They also compare what they are bringing to the table and the other person is bringing to the table. For example, let's consider two employees A and B, and the ratio of their output and input becomes, let's say, OA upon IA for employee A and OB upon IB for employee B. Now let's assume that the employee A is working for 8 hours and he gets 8,000 rupees in return, and the other employee is working for 4 hours and he also gets 8,000 rupees in return. What do you think? Is there an inequity or not? Let's see it. So here are ratio comparisons. What happens is that if the ratio of output and input of one individual is less than the ratio of output and input of another individual, then only it is considered inequity. So in this case, you see that the first employee A, who was working for 8 hours and getting 8,000 rupees, the ratio is, let's say, 1,000:1, and for another employee who is working for 4 hours and getting 8,000 rupees, his ratio is 2,000:1, just the double, and hence the employee A will feel bad. He'll feel under rewarded. He'll think that I am working double the time but I am getting only that much. He is working half the time and still he is earning similar salary. So here is this inequity. But in the next case, let's assume that the employee B is getting 4,000 rupees. Now A is getting 8,000 and working for 8 hours. B is getting 4,000 and working for 4 hours. Their ratio remains the same. So there is no feeling of inequity. The employees perceive equity. Or take it other way round. If the employee A is earning 8,000 rupees working for 8 hours, but employee B is getting 10,000 rupees and working for 10 hours, then also employee A will not feel that he is earning 2,000 rupees less, because the input of B is also more than the input of A. So if input is more and then the person is earning more, then the ratio remains the same and still the person will feel equity. There are other cases also when a person may feel that there is inequity when the person is giving less to the organization but getting more in return as compared to the other person. So the inequity may be on either side. A person may feel under rewarded or may feel over rewarded, and in both cases the person will try to bring equity by changing either the input or expecting more output. If you go by the first example, where the employee A was earning 8,000 rupees by working for 8 hours, and when he was comparing it with his colleague who was working for 4 hours and still earning 8,000 rupees. So when the employee A feels under rewarded, he wants to bring in equity. Now he can bring this equity either by increasing the output or reducing the input. So either he may go to his boss and tell him that since he is working double the time as compared to employee B, so he should get double the salary. Let's say if this does not work out and either he is not able to put up his case or he puts up his case but the case gets rejected, then in that case you can expect that the employee A will reduce his input. He might keep going to the office for 8 hours, but he might tend to reduce his work. He might reduce his efforts put into the work. Somewhere he will try to reduce the inputs so that his equity is maintained. So that is what we see, that when employees feel that there is an injustice and they have not received the rewards which others are getting, they tend to withhold their efforts. They tend to reduce their work. You might see them spending time in the organization, but they may not be giving their 100% in the organization because they believe that this is how they can bring about the equity. That is, if the organization is giving them only this much, they will also work only this. And from this theory, we can understand that the management should try to maintain equity and fairness in their compensation policies, or else it can have an impact upon the performance of the employees. And that's it. Thank you so very much.